This is a HeadGum podcast.
This week on the program, break out your red Adidas tracksuits and get ready to smoke some cigarettes on the roof because we're talking the Royal Tenenbaums. I'm Andrew Jupin.
Oh, wow. It's Steven Sadak.
Eric Siska.
Chris Cabin as Chris Cabin.
And we love movies. Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Love Movies. Thank you for tuning in. As always, that's right. We Love Movies Month continues. We're talking the Royal Tenenbaums from 2001, directed by Wes Anderson. Hell of a picture.
Oh yeah, it's great to. I'm happy that we were talking about the last Gene Hackman movie. There was no other movie after this.
There was. Chris, sorry.
Shut your dirty fucking mouth, Steve. Shut your dirty fucking mouth.
The Mooseport.
Royal Tenenbaum bought the house at Mooseport.
Royal Tenenbaum got into some sort of argument with Ray Romano.
Royal Tenenbaum was the only one who did not love Ray.
Yeah, I mean, there's movies to retire on, and then there's Welcome to Mooseport. And it is kind of just a nice, like, if you have you're looking at his filmography, and it's like the Royal Tenenbaums asterisk end of career.
You can keep on talking your smack. It ended with this, and that's how I'm going to believe it from now on.
Chris, I kind of admire I'm going to do another picture. Yeah, fuck this. And just unceremoniously leaving,
It's true. It's true that he's just like didn't decide to start doing like Westerns for DirecTV or anything like that. That's for better.
At least he didn't do an embarrassing cartoon like what's his name, Sean Connery, right?
Oh yeah.
Mr. Bigsby's Gold or whatever the
Mr. Bilky or I don't know what the hell it was.
I mean, that shit happens a lot though to older stars, man. Like, look at fucking James Stewart's last on-screen performance is doing the voice of the cat sheriff in Fievel Goes West.
I mean,
that's more classy. Fievel Goes West. I mean, come on.
Pacino and De Niro seem to be landlocked in a race to see who could have the worst one. Like they really, like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you got to respect Hackman for fucking, even though, yes, his last movie is Mooseport, he still did get out like fucking almost 20 years ago. He was like, you know what, dude?
Yeah.
And he's still alive. He's still with us. He's just been Gene Hackmaning. He's like, you know what? If I need something, I'll fucking go to the Lowe's Corporation. No big deal.
I mean, totally.
By the way, asterisks, at the time of this recording, he is still alive.
Yes.
He is still alive. And
Jesus, this episode only comes out next month, man. And I fucking hope that all the facts in this episode stay the same.
We Hate Movies news desk needs to have both stories ready to go. We're going to hit publish at the right time, hopefully.
Eric has to keep his eye on all his death clocks. There are many of them. They're going at all times. It's like the different time zones in like the newsroom, Tokyo and all that.
Turns out it's just the regular clock because people die every second.
He's got Gene Hackman, Jack Nicholson. He's got all the big ones up there ready to go.
Oh, that'll be tough.
I mean, Hackman will be tough, man. What are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. No, that sounded sarcastic, but it wasn't. No. Nicholson too. I'm going to be bummed, man.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be bad.
Yeah.
And I guess Mooseport isn't technically. I guess you have to count that. The 1 minute he was in Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives.
Was he on there?
What?
There's some. You got to go look it up. There was some. He was in the background.
Quite a sloppy steak sandwich guy. That's
something like that. Like he likes a local diner.
All right. First of all, I mean, we will look it up. I'm sure someone's looking it up right now. But let me say this, Chris Kaplan. I don't have to count shit.
What, you're not
Diners, Drive-ins. So what you're saying?
Guy
Guy
Fieri over Ray Romano. That's
you're
what
saying.
I'm saying. 100%.
Wait, so Chris, you're saying there was an episode of Triple D where he just got accidentally picked up in the background?
Chris is correct.
No, he's in the foreground.
He's
at
the
least one of the picture I'm looking at.
He was in 2 episodes. I think they might have re-aired the segment. I guess the first one's called Big Breakfast from 2008, and then there's another one, What's for Breakfast, also from 2008, but he's uncredited in that
Because he doesn't look like Gene Hackman. He's a much older man now. So like he looks older, so you don't really notice it at first. But then you look again and bam, it's him eating breakfast.
So did the crew know that it was Gene Hackman?
Well, no, yeah, he's like with Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has a picture.
Oh my God. Yes, this picture is glorious.
Well, I'm just curious if it was a thing, maybe like they get in and they're doing like his first intro and he was like, we're rolling out to this new piece of shit place I'm going to get diarrhea at. And then like after one intro take, he was like, wait a minute. Who's that kindly old man over there eating breakfast all alone, trying to mind his own business? And then it was like we stumbled upon Gene Hackman in this diner.
Oh, man, Gene Hackman, I got to tell you, I love Popeye. I love that movie, Popeye. I think you're so good in it. Thank you so much for what you've done.
I kind of want Wes Anderson to have to block and shoot Guy Fieri and like figure out the color palette. Like I think he would have an aneurysm. He'd go, oh, yeah, geek. He would just fall over because like those colors do not appear in Wes Anderson movies. Flame red dice. You know what I mean?
But Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives sounds like a Wes Anderson title.
It does.
And actually, Guy Fieri kind of sounds like a Wes Anderson name a little bit.
Guy Fieri bought the house at 7 Arthur Avenue. Yeah,
he'd wear,
I can see it.
In the Wes Anderson version, he'd wear like a blue leisure suit or something.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine
awesome.
a mansion with like the flame decals like on the walls
exactly
everywhere. That would be fucking dope.
Honestly. Oh yeah, his gauchily decorated fucking house.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Steve, you sent Eric sent a pic in the chat. Now I'm just curious.
Yeah, you got to see it. It's good. He looks great with Hackman in this picture.
He does.
Know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was a photo recently. Every time someone stumbles across him at like the Five and Dime in whatever like American Southwest town he lives in, and like, you know, it's terrifying because one, it's like you see Gene Hackman trending and you're like, oh fuck, and then you click on it and it's like, oh, someone else just ran into him and there he is taking a nice big toothed, you know, smiling photo. Like he's still happy as a pig and shit, man. And I gotta say, I don't know, you look at these guys like Pacino and De Niro still chugging out these movies like, yeah, okay, we got The Irishman, but like at what cost? Look at these guys. They're fucking miserable.
They're miserable. You're getting the Joker, you're getting fucking whatever else. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like even fucking Simone was 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
That's true.
There's like the amount of like tired serial killer movies Al Pacino was doing at one point. I think he's kind of given that up.
That's fine, because I think those movies he's finally like kind of too old to be like fake running around an alleyway.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say about him, he's got one of those crazy scarves he's running around with these days.
It looks great.
That's true. I mean, Pacino looks great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is I think I can't really judge them because they both De Niro and Pacino seem like workaholics, like genuine, like they cannot stop. Even if you wanted them to stop. Hackman was like, you know what? I fucking hate everybody I've ever worked with. I hate all of you people that with in Hollywood. I hate everything. I'm gonna go away. Like he is.
That's awesome.
Everybody puts Carpenter on the top of like aging well as far as like your attitude towards age and your past work. I say Hackman has him beat by just a smidge because he doesn't have to constantly talk about the money. Like I love Carpenter. I love him so much, but I cannot. I am done with the fucking posting of the picture of like every time fucking new Halloween comes out.
Yeah.
Check in the hand.
Right.
I'm like, it's cool. I love him. But like Hackman's the one who's like, fuck it all.
Well,
I'm done.
Because Hackman actually walked away. You know,
Yes.
Carpenter, even though he's not like really active, he worked on
He does the music. Yeah.
music, and you know, and then he's given these interviews. You could just say no.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how many interviews I say no to? Oh my God.
Zero.
Everyone pestering. Did you say zero?
Yes,
less than zero? Is there less than zero?
Wait, I haven't heard of this magazine yet.
This
Bret Easton Ellis's magazine.
This was a huge one for me coming up, and just sort of like this, because I had seen Rushmore. I liked it. I wound up liking Rushmore more as I got older, but like I liked Rushmore a lot, but I wasn't like super duper into it. But this was the one that I was like, oh, I want to watch all this guy's movies,
yeah, this was the first one I saw in theaters too. I had seen Rushmore, I think precisely one time, and had not seen Bottle Rocket yet at this point.
Which
and
is also a great movie, by the way. I really enjoy that one as well.
I came around to that as an adult. I wasn't crazy about it like in high school when I first saw it, but then I watched it maybe in like lockdown or a little after lockdown, was like, oh, this is actually really good. But Tenenbaums hit me, I mean, in such a way that it was like, you're seeing something like you haven't seen before on a big screen, which I think is different than seeing something you haven't seen before just on VHS. Because it's not like I hadn't seen a Wes Anderson movie before, but I hadn't seen one on the big screen. It had such an effect on me. I don't know. It was one of those, oh, movies can do this and be this fucking weird. And also a bunch of really good music on a soundtrack that I was like pretty much completely unaware of. That was another big thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, all the soundtracks for all these movies are fucking incredible.
Yeah.
So much kinks.
Because this is a movie that, like, you know, around the time I was still saying, you know, it's a good movie, everybody, The Boondock Saints. And thankfully, somebody needed to come in with something actually good.
Oh, yeah. I think the thing with this movie was, for me, it was like, for someone who had, like, watched American Beauty, it was like, that's good. Yay. And then, like, I was like, oh, wait, this is a little bit more interesting as a movie about families. Like, this is kind of a corrective. Like, this is more of the interesting interplay of what's going on in an actual family. And to me, it's, I mean, yes, I had seen, I don't think I'd seen Rushmore on the big screen, but seeing this, it's like the first time that his vision, like Anderson's like style really comes into clarity. Like, yeah, Rushmore had a lot of it. So did Bottle Rocket. And to be clear, like my least favorite Wes Anderson movies, which are probably Bottle Rocket and Isle of Dogs, I still think are good movies. Like,
I'll fight you on Isle of Dogs.
I'll fight you on Bottle Rocket.
We can go outside and we can get the bare knuckles out and really go.
I'll be on Chris Cabin's side fighting both of you.
Yeah. I'm ready to
Chris,
go. I mean,
I see what you're saying. Like, because in Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, there's the eccentricities and shit, but there's still like that real world around it. And then once you get to here, it's a fully formed world of that,
and it's built specifically off of his use of color, his use of editing specifically, and the way he frames things, usually through these literary devices, usually through a book or through something like that. And like by the time you get to Grand Budapest, it's been firmed up and built on so much that like there's levels upon levels upon levels going on there, and like it's amazing to watch it just at this kind of chaotic first step. Here.
Well, this is like the first one he's doing real dollhouse shit with. Yes. You know what I mean? Like really just like full on building out the dollhouse, making sure everything is exactly where it needs to be. Blah, blah, blah. Even like little shots about like when I noticed it last night when Margot and Richie are laying down in the tent. There's the record player there, but there's also all of these. If you look at the shot, there's all of these little kids, little race cars all over that I've never seen before, which is so insane. And I mean, look at the dollhouse stuff, and like now he's almost getting silly with it. Even though I loved French Dispatch. French Dispatch is so narratively dense and so dense in every single shot, where it's almost too much. Even though, again, I do love that movie, but like it was interesting to see him push it that far. But here, I think it's really contained, and I think family stories are just always going to get me the right way. You know what I mean? Like any kind of large family thing is always going to get me because I come from a large family.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I do as well. I didn't come from a family of geniuses by any stretch of the imagination. But
if anyone, by the way, if anyone from my family's listening, I was from a family of geniuses. Yeah,
sure.
A family without money is the one I came from.
So this is a family both of geniuses and with copious amounts of money, as we see very early on in the prologue, where the younger version of Ben Stiller's character Chaz just very nonchalantly asks his mother for like $180, and she immediately writes a check to cash without even asking. Like,
not only that, write yourself a check and she'll sign it, so they have access to the checkbook, which is
I mean, incredible. $180 in like 1980. Like, wow. Must be fucking sweet, kids.
And this is QXR's Alec Baldwin, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
The New York Philharmonic and the Royal Tenenbaums.
This was, I think, the first time I had ever heard him do any kind of narration. Was like, absolutely, you're good at this.
Here's the thing: Royal Tenenbaum bought the house on Archer Avenue.
I would think this is the ship that like this launches 1,000 voiceover gigs for him. Like,
yes, it may well have been, for sure. This was certainly the largest profile one, I think, at that point. And Steve, like you said, just about like, these things being very literary. I mean, this book is quote unquote Alec Baldwin reading to us, more or less. What I love is when you're looking at, each chapter, and it's kind of funny because there's only like 6 or 7 chapters in the book, or like six chapters and then like a prologue and an epilogue or something. But if you read the fake book page that's on the screen, the words are not prose. It's literally just like the script.
Yeah.
Which is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
It's great, and it's a nod towards like what happens in adaptation between like what happens between a script and the actual movie, and like doing that, and like it accounts for this dollhouse style he's doing, which is firmed up since Rushmore, which is just it doesn't have any framing like that.
Yeah,
it's just a story way Bottle Rocket is, whereas a lot of these since then are like this.
But the amount of like what do you want to call it there, pathos and a character you get through this prologue alone of just watching these kids kind of grow up, and again, you are watching the dollhouse, like you're watching, what do you call it there, Chaz's room with all the business stuff, and like this is where his teletype is, this is whatever his
he started taking his coffee, sitting up to save time or whatever.
That, and then like just at every turn you're meeting what a shithead Royal Tenenbaum is.
Yes.
And I fucking love it.
My God, what is one of the first ones when he with Chaz where they're doing the BB gun fight, which also seems pretty dangerous, but I guess that's what they existed for to begin with.
Yeah, BB in the knuckle, getting the BB right in the knuckle.
But like kids were just shooting each other with BB guns
all the time.
Yeah,
that was normal.
You're supposed to be shooting like cans and whatnot. I don't think you were supposed to be actually shooting each other.
You'll shoot your eye out. Yeah. That's true.
You're supposed to use your Swiss Army knife just for like technical things and stuff, but
to remove BBs from the flesh. Yeah, so he gets the BB lodged in there because Royal decides to switch sides in this insane game.
It's so awesome. I mean, all of these things are so fucking great. Like seeing their little like youth accomplishments. Like Chaz also breeds the Dalmatian mice, which they say he sells to a store downtown in Little Tokyo, which we should say, a thing that I love about this movie is it's such a fairy tale vision of New York City, to the point where it's so I mean, we don't have a Little Tokyo. We don't have a 375th Street for where the Y is located.
In this version, the Access one, right? That's why there's a little.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it's a New York that's not about tourist stuff. It's an intimate New York. It's about like what it's like to walk around in New York, especially in the neighborhoods that have houses, rather than the place with the screens and
which people are
shops.
like this. We should say. I mean, there are families that are rich and sprawling beyond belief on the Upper West Side.
Oh yeah. I mean, they say Royal bought this at 35. Can you imagine buying this house at 35? Like, other than being a Getty, I cannot imagine buying.
He
this
put
house.
himself through law school, Chris. He probably waited extra tables on the weekends.
That's right.
Just a $1 million loan from his dad.
But I do. Yeah, I mean, I do think. Yeah, it's all of this is fake. There's no Colby General Hospital, et cetera, et cetera. And but you do, being a lifelong New Yorker, like, it feels more New York, especially like autumn and like early winter in New York, like all like the vanilla lighting you're getting, like these kind of amazing, what do you call it, tableaus of, again, like street level New York. And like he specifically doesn't have any landmarks, or even like we're not even looking up at skyscrapers. It's all on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you can't, that's what's cool. Like, I mean, Chris, like you said, it's not for tourists. It's like if you're trying to even look for something, you can't. All the street signs are covered up and fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
Midtown doesn't exist in this world.
Thank God.
No.
I wish.
Seriously.
I do want to. Chaz really got into breeding at 9 years old and started watching mice fuck at age of 10.
Oh man, I mean, I love that he also dresses like a cartoon character. He's got like his little tie rotator, and you can see it's just like all the same tie, all the same shirts, all the same pants.
Margot Tenenbaum awoke at 9 a.m. and for her shift at the Disney store.
Richie Tenenbaum was a busboy at the Times Square Hard Rock Cafe.
Every weekend, Royal would take them to the M&M store where they would gorge themselves on peanut M&Ms.
They would go to the Michael Jordan Steakhouse in Grand Central, enjoy a T-bone together.
Just the New Yorker's New York, man. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
After a slice of Sbarro, they'd call it a day.
Every Saturday night, Etheline would take the family to eat at their favorite restaurant, the Times Square Olive Garden.
Yes, Royal was very insistent that the children experience the arts, watching Mrs. Doubtfire, Harry Potter plays, and Waitress on Saturdays.
And coming soon, Back to the Future on Broadway. Yeah, that's right, on Broadway.
This is what they're doing while me and Julio down by the schoolyard is playing. They're just going to all these different places.
Oh man, I mean, I love all of Margot's stuff. Adopted it to. This is my adopted daughter, Margot
just
Tenenbaum.
Constantly saying adopted. Oh my god,
that scene. It's going to be hard for me to say what my favorite scene is. The scene when after the play, and they're like, "What did you think? Did you like the characters?" Like, what characters? A bunch of kids in animal costumes.
He didn't find it very believable and shit. And well, don't be mad at me. It's just one man's opinion.
It's just one man's opinion.
And the little girl is fantastic. She's like, I'm going to bed. And the birthday cake is coming out.
What a great punchline that it's her birthday he's saying this on.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, that was her first play she ever wrote for her 11th birthday party. We're told given a $50,000 Braverman grant.
She probably didn't need it.
Like, no, definitely not. They just put it on the fucking pile, dude.
Isn't it crazy that like Ethel Tenenbaum's writing these books about what geniuses she's raising, and how you put so much pressure on these kids to succeed? They're never gonna.
Oh well,
that's why they're all fucking burnouts in their mid-20s.
They're overscheduled to shit. Did you see that fucking little
Yeah,
calendar they got? It's all hell.
Yeah, it looks like my calendar right now.
Really? Sure.
I got to tell you though, I love that shot of the great Anjelica Huston, one of our finest. It's supposed to be like the early 80s, late 70s or something like that, and she's dressed like a 70s mom, and she's in the phone booth making the appointments for like, Chaz's like Italian language lessons or something like that. And she's like juggling all the kids. It's such a great little composition of that life, and sort of without Alec Baldwin, yipping to you about like all the shit that they're up to, you still glean like this is an incredibly active and overly active family.
Well, yeah, and they don't go zoom out too much to like the rest of like, because fucking her neighbor Ethel's neighbors and like her like society friends fucking hate her. Like if you publish a book called Family of Geniuses, everybody fucking hates you because you oh, my kid, he fucking wrote a book about a play about a zebra yelling out a lie and she's a genius. Like
I do, and I do think that like what I mean, Wes Anderson. I mean, I do think that there's going to be some divisive people in our comments, people who just hate Wes Anderson's style and the whole thing. And I totally. I was about to say it's fine, but I mean it's a thing where like this is the dude's milieu. Like he's just working in like some people tell stories about hardscrabble street characters, and some people tell stories about rich bougie fucks and how miserable it is to be a rich bougie fuck. Right. And I mean, like again, literally growing up really close to poor, I don't feel isolated from that. Like my growing up was nowhere near like this. However, I could relate to it through various other stuff. Like I think all of the family dynamics are really good. The shithead father, the whole thing. You know what I mean? There's a lot for a lot of people to relate to that don't have money in it. In
Bottle Rocket and in Rushmore, it's very focusing on poor characters. Yeah. And then once you get here, he stops doing that, I guess. I mean, because this is, his masterpiece, and I get that, but I do, and I know this, well, I'll get some booze now, because I feel like Life Aquatic is a fall off. Not that it's bad, but, and Darjeeling Limited, I just felt like we did not get these heights again, but we were still sticking around the rich people, whatever. Grand Budapest Hotel, on the other hand, I loved, and French Dispatch left me a little cold, unfortunately.
But with both of those, at least, you can totally say, like, while there are some, of course, wealthy characters in those movies, it's not a hardcore, zeroing in on the difficult lives of rich people.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean?
No. And that's the thing, is that his style reflects, like, yes, I'm into this fancy shit. I'm like, that's just me. I'm sorry. And like, his movies do deal with class, and like the only thing I understand the criticism, But it's not like, I'm sure all those people who make these comments went to see Maria Full of Grace the first weekend it came out and is really interested in all poor people's cinema. I'm sure they're really fucking into it. I'm sure they're not just going to see fucking Marvel movies like the rest of the fucking hogs. No.
Whoa. It's okay to like a movie. It's okay to dislike a movie.
It is 100%. But I find that so ridiculous because it's not like you pay attention to movies about poor people anyway.
Yeah,
it's not even a fucking thing.
But yeah,
it's incredibly valid. And I'll just say also, Maria Full of Grace, tough but very good movie.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Hell of a movie.
And this Wes Anderson, for whatever faults you have with him, at least it's a director with an American director with an actual vision that is still allowed to produce movies, make movies.
Yeah. That's very fucking true. You don't have a lot of these folks in this country anymore. We don't support arts that way.
No.
And I do love the opening. So like we do the whole prologue with all the kids stuff, and then like I think I forget the line is something like all of that was shattered by decades of betrayal, disappointment, and depression, or whatever the hell the thing is. So really,
I found it. Good call. I wrote it down. Betrayal, failure, and disaster.
And you get to see all these people grown up or in the present timeline. I love that it's all people getting dressed. Again, very dollhouse, like, you know what I mean? Like a perfectly framed shot of them in some incredible location or some incredibly specific location getting dressed. And like Royals is the absolute worst because his life is a fucking wreck.
Well, yeah. And it's so amazing that the beginning is so succinct and so fluid that it really does take till you see Mordecai flying, till you understand that Hey Jude is playing in the background.
Yes.
Like all of a sudden, like it's the fucking Beatles. I was like, what? Okay, fine, great. Yeah, you're opening with the Beatles. That's a pretty bold statement there, buddy. And then I love this theatrical, like showing the actors in the.
Oh yeah, I mean
perfect.
it's great because the first title card you see is 22 years later, and then it runs through this whole cast, and it gets the people out of the way that we've already met, so the Tenenbaum family, and then expands to like Danny Glover and Bill Murray's character and all of these other people that are going to be bouncing around here. But yes, we're told that this whole story is getting kicked off because Royal finds out he's getting booted from the Lindbergh Palace Hotel.
And is this opening is it a little like A Magnificent Ambersons? It's been a long time since I've seen that. I know that's an influence on this film, but I do love that movie.
Yeah, another movie about a family, a once great family's fall. I don't recall if they do a opening victory lap kind of credit thing in that movie.
Maybe
it's entirely possible.
I might be thinking about the end credits.
I don't know for sure, but there is a very similar, like the density of the all the stuff he puts in frames is very much Wellesian. Like the way he packs the screen with things to look at is very Orson Welles stuff.
And we're told that he's been living in this hotel for 22 years after being disbarred and imprisoned briefly in the 1980s.
Also just living in a hotel room for 22 years.
Oh,
but also he was disbarred and imprisoned because his son wanted him to. You know what I mean? Like it's basically his son turned him in for like, all the thievery and the fuckery and blah, blah, blah. There's that they see him, you see him in some sort of small court where it's just, I just love the thing where Gene Hackman is fucking terrific in this movie. It's the shot where it's something, and he stole bonds from my safe deposit box when I was 12 years old, and then it just cut, and Hackman is just in the frame, and then he just does this like chuckle, like like a sheepish chuckle because he's got nothing to say about it.
Come on, Judge. I mean, come on. I mean, you got to imagine Royal was hanging out with Roy Cohn. He was hanging out with Trump. If he was a litigator in the 80s, I mean, give me a break. He was probably arrested outside of Club 54. I would imagine. I mean, I don't know where 54? Else he'd be. Studio 54, yeah.
Well, maybe he associated with those dudes, but I'm not going to sit here for a second and hear you presume that he may have been on the flight logs.
No, well, maybe. The very
if he's a litigator, all those motherfuckers were fucking defense people.
Royal Tenenbaum on the flight logs. I fucking love that. Riding with Bill Clinton and shit.
Hi, Kevin Spacey. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, man. And, speaking of like the literariness of it all, we are introduced to the adult Eli Cash, of course, played by Owen Wilson, and him doing this book reading for his book Old Custer. And this is the great. And they rode on into the friscolating dusklight, and it's the fucking interview about now everybody knows Custer died at Little Bighorn, but what my book presupposes is maybe he didn't.
This is
just the fucking bottom of the barrel literary shit.
Immediately on the phone with someone in your review, you said specifically not a genius.
How is so? He's talking to Margot. I was like, why did he say I was specifically not a genius? And he's like, why you agreed to that really fast?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
I think he's great in this. Owen Wilson. I will say I like the Darjeeling Limited probably maybe more than a lot of people, and I think that he's a real reason to watch that movie. He's really good.
I need to go back to be fair to that movie.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I saw it precisely one time in theaters, and the fucking Criterion Blu-ray's been sitting on the old 2-watch shelf for quite a while.
My initial response to that movie was it got a little too rich person navel gazing, but I need to reevaluate. Like I said,
I think that movie does better with Indian culture than
Temple of Doom.
Isle of yes, and B, Isle of Dogs does with Japanese culture. I will say that.
For sure. That is.
Oh, there is. Listen, all of my appreciation for that movie is in the stop motion animation.
Yes,
and that's where it fucking ends.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of real ick in that movie, and also I will say I have not gone back to that since theaters as well. But
and he did a fantastic Mr. Fox, right?
Oh
yes,
that's a great one.
Mm-hmm. I love that movie.
But
they're all poor in that. They're all fucking animals that live in the woods.
Yeah.
They have the luxury of no money.
They live under a tree, okay, people? That's pretty tough, okay? Could you do that?
So we find out that Margot is sleeping with Eli Cash, and you see Richie writing a letter or dictating a letter on some steamship that he's on, because that's what his life is these days, jumping steamship to steamship.
Mm-hmm. Man, that is a solitary existence, dude.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to get some thinking done, just hop some steamers for a while, man. Also, by the way, a thing they're only letting fucking rich white people do.
Oh, that's right. I was about to say, it's a good thing he gets off and transfers to the Queen Helena back to the East Coast, because otherwise he might have ended up in the Triangle of Sadness. Hello.
Just Richie Tenenbaum yakking it up.
Yeah. Oh my God, totally. He's getting it's coming out both ends for him. Which you totally see in that movie, by the way.
Love that.
And
the last thing he ends his letter with is, I think I might be in love with Margot. Stop. Which is, great. And Gwyneth Paltrow is phenomenal in this movie. She is.
I think this is her best performance.
Oh, easily.
I think so too. She gets the cadence so well. There's I think that, it's easy with Anderson to be like, oh, all the characters are so flat. They're just doing, saying things, very monotonously, and not the good ones, and certainly not her. I think that there's so much energy and emotion behind so much of what she's saying and doing.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with Gwyneth Paltrow, is that she's always best when she has a director. Fucking Fincher knows what to do with her. Anderson knows what to do with her. Whoever did Shakespeare in Love kind of knew what to do with her. But once it's just her, it is just goop. I hear. That's all I hear is her goop voice. That's all I hear.
Her goop voice. Can you do an impression of that goop voice?
There you
go, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
That was John Madden, by the way, not the famous deceased football coach, but the English director who did Shakespeare in Love, Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, Proof, Miss Sloane, all these movies you really want to see.
Judi Dench is doing the best work of her life right now, okay? Watch what's happening in front of the cameras, folks.
You got Ben Affleck coming over here, and you're going to have Joseph Fiennes, ram, right up the middle, ram.
Then you're coming over here, you got the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, and what's going to happen is Maggie Smith's going to run right up the middle and go, oh my God, Indian people are real people. That's the point of that film, Jim.
But Shakespeare in Love, you went right down to the end zone, touchdown, Oscar, 26 years old, Gwyneth Paltrow. You rarely see it, folks, and couldn't really live up to anything after that. I guess family of genius right there.
And they ignore old John Madden, of course. I have to go back to my old job at the NFL.
Margot Tenenbaum is romantically involved with another young, rich luminary, Anthony Stark, at the other end of New York City.
Tony Stark's father bought the huge tower in Midtown Manhattan at the age of 34.
Royal Tenenbaum has been living 22 years in a hotel suite in the Avengers Tower headquarters.
I don't like you dating that Stark guy. I knew his father. He ripped me off in a real estate scam, all right?
Pagoda worked in the engine room of one of those Avengers flying, one of those flying battleships they have.
Yeah, they got him.
Yeah.
I do love. I think actually, speaking of, Robert Downey Jr. would do well in a Wes Anderson movie if he'd ever allow himself to do a movie.
No,
It's
you can't do
kind of
good movies.
surprising.
Can't
You
do
know,
it.
here's my hope though, right? After his experience with Chris Smith making the documentary about his father, I really hope something like clicked inside of him that was like, oh, I can add value to non-superhero movies again. And like maybe he now will become a little more choosy, you know, he'll stop fucking things up, like almost starring in good shit and then not, and just producing it instead.
Oh yeah, next he'll be in a production of Pinocchio where he's plays Geppetto and Pinocchio.
Oh God!
You're right, Chris. The only movies we're allowed to make anymore for adults are Pinocchio movies. I don't know. That's what we did.
By the way, he did want to do that.
Oh,
listen,
Jesus.
you kids go to bed. Mommy and Daddy are going to stay up and watch Pinocchio. He gets wood.
Yeah. The
Well, you thinking
R-rated
that-
Pinocchio.
That Pinocchio, like it's because it's not so much like I want to be a real boy. It's like this pervert Geppetto, like making a sex doll in his own visage, you know?
Yes.
His own likeness, rather.
And he impregnates it with his own life force one day, and it comes to life.
Oh man, Eric, we're writing for Black Mirror now. That's what we're doing. Let's get it together.
Anyone could write for Black Mirror.
Yeah, we got a good premise here.
So, you know, the whole thing, yeah, he gets kicked out of the apartment. That's what we're at. He gets kicked out of the apartment and everything, or the hotel, rather. And so his whole scam is, I'm going to, you know, crash with my estranged family for a while because I'm totally fucking broke. And the way I'm going to do this is a really unforgivable way. I'm going to pretend that I'm dying.
I mean, Chaz has already moved back home because he doesn't think that his apartment is safe. He's running crazy drills. His wife died in a plane crash.
Hilarious detail that the children were also there and the dog, and they all survived and she died.
Yes.
I also love the fact that for like everything else, like we've said, is like very well framed, you know, very like firm and like still. For the Chaz as an adult, Ben Stiller with Ari and Uzi, he goes handheld for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
To show how nervy he is and how like out of control he is and he leaves fucking Buckley.
Yeah.
What
This
a
fucking-
bullshit.
Fucking son of a bitch.
Wes Anderson and his cruelty to dogs. I'll never get over it.
No. Bastard.
But
I gotta say also, I mean, I get it, dude. You're having a nervous breakdown because your wife died. It's a really hard time. This, that, and the other thing. And not to knock, you know, Ethel's house, man. The Tenenbaum household, you know, on Archer Avenue still looks pretty rad.
Yeah.
But this fucking like
It's good.
4-story like West End Avenue apartment that Ben Stiller's running out of in
not
this
bad.
movie.
Oh yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
That's some Patrick Bateman kind of shit.
Oh yeah. This is a real house where Glenn Close could stalk your family in.
well, Andrew, he has a preternatural understanding of international finance. Okay, that's how you get that house.
Yeah. I
Do
mean,
you have a preternatural understanding of international finance? I don't think so.
I don't have a preternatural understanding of fucking domestic finance, dude.
as a child, he negotiated the purchase of his father's, vacation home.
See,
on Eagle Island.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
see, Ari and Uzi, greed is good. Come on.
And Ben Stiller's. I mean, I'm gonna say everybody's great in this movie. I do love. So he moves in, and there's this. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of Salinger influences on this, specifically the Glass family stories. And no more so than this scene between Margot and her mother when she's in the bath and the mom comes in.
Oh, yep.
That's very Franny and Zooey as well, which is also a Glass family story.
Feel like Franny and Zoe, like fucking half that book takes place with someone sitting in a bathtub.
Absolutely hot stuff, and your
Wow.
mom is watching you, dude.
Oh my God. I'll have to learn to read. Shit.
But there's this great line that tells you so much about all these characters. Anjelica Huston's like, you know, Chaz moved back in because, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's going through a hard time. He's very depressed. And then Margot goes, why is he allowed to do that? As
Yes.
like this idea that everybody wants to move back in and everybody wants to like recapture living at home in this incredibly creepy way,
and
but
still speaking in that child way of like
Yes.
something being allowed or not.
Exactly.
Also, yeah, I mean, also it hints at like she's fucking asked Etheline this before and has possibly been turned down for some reason. And you'd want to fucking move back with your parents too if you were married to Raleigh St. Clair and his fucking dude Dudley here, man. I love that the first real whiff of Bill Murray you get in this movie, he's basically doing like mental acuity tests on this kid, much like the first time you meet him in Ghostbusters.
Where's that red one gonna go? How interesting. How bizarre.
He's so delighted every time he finds out like more fucked up details about this kid's affliction.
He suffers from XYZ and even colorblind. He has an acute sense of hearing and has color blindness. He's 3 rooms away. And I mean, like, these are the kinds of jokes that Wes Anderson loves, that I love, that have nothing to do with wealth or anything. They're just kind of zany. You know what I mean? It's like someone whispering in another room saying that someone has acute sense of hearing and color blindness, and the kid fucking 4 rooms away being like, I'm not colorblind, am I? And he's like, yes, I'm afraid you are.
Add that to the laundry list of Dudley syndrome or whatever he's called it.
All you have to do is meet Dudley to understand why this marriage is falling apart. Because Dudley clearly does. He has all these very strange. Raleigh is writing a book on him, Dudley's World. We see it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Dudley probably does not shower. He probably does not think that is necessary. He probably does not think that brushing your teeth, he thinks that's probably it's overkill doing it every day. You probably only have to do it once a month.
Did you relate to this character?
100%, because I've also ruined 100 marriages because fucking scientists have been studying.
Yeah. I didn't mean any of that.
Well, the cool thing too, it's a nice thing of like, again, just like the class talk here a little bit, right? Is like we're told she hasn't written a play in like 7 years or something like that. And she's living with Raleigh St. Clair in this, he's doing his research in the house, like in the kitchen or whatever. When Etheline like goes to pick her up and take her, back to the Tenenbaum house, you clearly see they live in a single family house as well, but it's somewhere like, LIC or far out in the boroughs,
Brooklyn
somewhere.
Or something. Yeah, it is, but it's still a nice place. But it definitely, you feel like, I guess in the terms of like New York City sense, that's like being quite literally another island away. Like she's far from home there.
Yeah, totally. So it's this nice, like all the kids back under the one roof. I think Alec Baldwin tells us for the first time in 17 years.
Oh man, Richie, fucking Gwyneth Paltrow going to meet Margot going to meet Richie at the bus station is like with These Days kicking in. One of the best needle drops, period. Like I one of my favorites to this day. I it's such an elegant way, and it's such a song that I'm not sure I could imagine it being used any other place.
Yeah,
it's just it's incredible.
And they do, I mean, like the movie never actually it is weird, in which Owen Wilson says that your brother has a crush on you, and it's weird and gross. And even though they're adopted, the movie never shies away that it's kind of weird and kind of gross.
It was
what I mean?
At the time, it was just normal on the Upper West Side. I mean, we had the devious Woody Allen household on one side, and then we had the Tenenbaums on the other.
House Allen and House Tenenbaum were in constant war at one another.
That's why I find that to be a kind of a weird couple's costume, to TBQH.
Are we still seeing those?
Dude, every Halloween you'll see a Richie and Margot. I feel
they're like what, 45 or 50. These couples.
I mean, I think younger kids are finding this movie probably.
Listen, here's the thing. It's not a couple's costume.
Here's the thing. You can go as all 3 of the kids, but you need a third.
Yeah, that's a good move.
You know what I mean? It's not a couple's costume. If you can get someone in a red tracksuit, though.
I mean, the real reason is it's an easy costume, right?
Yeah.
Also that. Yeah, precisely.
The tennis band, a blazer or whatever, you're done.
Yeah, and if you're just like screwing around with each other, maybe just be the Eli Cash and Margot.
There you go.
Yeah, that's fun.
You don't have to do
Yeah.
the
Well, see,
Richie
that's
thing.
the thing. That's a harder costume. The fringe jacket
I
and the
guess
hat.
that's true. It's more expensive
Yeah.
for sure.
Dude, that's a great Owen Wilson moment in this movie when Margot gets back to her bedroom after coming home and she goes in the room and fucking Owen Wilson is in the closet and like she turns on the light and she's like, I know you're there or whatever it is. And he comes out like in tighty whities and he puts the cowboy hat on like, hello, beautiful. Looking like a total asshole.
I think Owen Wilson had to wear a wig in this movie for a lot of it because he was still either filming reshoots or shoots of Behind Enemy Lines.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I didn't even tell.
Yeah, because I think that's why he's wearing the hat a lot.
Is that where he got the little scar too?
Oh, possibly.
Oh, yeah, he was behind enemy lines.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
With
right.
Gene Hackman.
Oh, yeah. Gene Hackman is in that movie,
Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
believe
Is this
so.
Is this Texan sumbitch going to be in all my movies? I'm retiring. I am retiring.
I don't have to
Done
be
with
in,
it.
I don't have to be in the same room with him, do I? Okay.
That's what Gene Hackman was actually yelling in that one scene. He's like, I know you, asshole.
Yes.
He's just yelling at Owen Wilson. He wasn't yelling at the character.
We should say, I mean, probably one of my favorite movie scenes in Wes Anderson history is Hackman telling Anjelica Huston that he's going to die. It's
Yes.
So good.
it's one shot, and the way the two of them play off each other, and he does it. He's like, I'm dying, baby, and she's like crying. She's like, what's the prognosis? Oh my god, she
And
gets
then
to
what she
complete
does,
despair.
Where's the doctor?
Yes.
Where's the doctor? What did the doctor say? What's the prognosis?
All right, I'm not
Like,
dying.
I just need a little time. And she just goes, what's wrong with you? And hits him so fucking hard. And
Oh,
then walks
man.
away and then comes back into the shot because, like, no, I am really dying. He goes back and forth. Oh, my
Are you
God.
or aren't you?
Yes.
oh, man. They have the times where they get to just be alone.
Mhm.
I think it's only really like twice. That
Yes.
scene. And then when they're walking in Central Park later, which is another just beautiful moment. But it's a beautiful moment in a Royal Tenenbaum way where it's just like, I'd like to thank you for doing a great job raising our children, by the way.
Yes.
You're just like, all right, man, that is one way to say that. Oh, I just love it. But to get back to the Nico thing for a second, I mean, that was like the way that they set that up too is great because it's Richie like getting off the boat and Baldwin's flapping his gums about like, Richie arranged for his handler that he always had when he was on the pro tour to pick him up. And it's just this great, as always, she was late. And then boom, into these days. And that was the first time I'd ever heard Nico. It was the first time
really?
I'd ever heard her voice. I mean, my folks did not listen to Velvet Underground. Unfortunately, I had to find it myself. And so like that movie, I mean, that's why I said too, the soundtrack was like so important to me, just like finding all of, like Nick Drake and there's like that terrible fucking Dylan Tune Wigwam is on the set, like so much stuff. But like this song, and it's so funny because so many, like they even say it in the Todd Haynes movie too. At the Velvet Underground, they talk about like, oh yeah, Nico and blah blah blah. She was so weird. She had this weird voice, and it's like, I never in my life until seeing that documentary thought that her voice was weird. I think she had this incredible voice, this beautiful fucking voice.
Absolutely.
And just in this moment and just the slow-mo and just the two of them. And there's so much like she's saying shit to him and he's not responding. It's kind of like Han Solo talking to Chewbacca in a way. It's like Gwyneth Paltrow like says, something about his hair, his clothes or something like that. And he's not saying anything and she's still just carrying on the conversation, like knowing what his answers are anyway. It's a great fucking moment.
Yes. And also what's great about this moment is like when he gets off, he disembarks the ship and stuff and you see that giant goddamn ship. Wes Anderson gets this fucking crazy old bus out to be in this movie. Everything is so well sourced.
Yes.
Yeah. And it adds this air of weird, timelessness, right? He's traveling into New York City on a huge fucking boat, right? And then he uses it throughout the whole movie, but the quote unquote green line bus, we don't have those here, but like that's just this old, it looks like the bus they drive off the bridge in fucking Heart and Soul.
Yes.
I mean, it's important. Like that's to me is so important to what he creates in all these movies is the fact that like he does take the moment to be like, no, I'm just going to make a slightly fictional version of this, but I'm going to put the effort in to show you it. Like, I'm not just going to like the fact that you see the covers of all these books that are talked about. Stuff
That's
like that
so cool.
is, to me, is so important to what he's getting at, and the way of breaking up the visual momentum of a movie without losing narrative momentum, like
and
actually moving the thing.
And the cover, I mean, tells you so much about when the book was published, what the book is, who the book is trying to speak to. Like, you get so much in that flash of what the cover is. He's really insane about that. I also love, if we're talking about stuff, the gypsy cabs. The gypsy cab company, which is a great joke of cabs without medallions in New York are called gypsy cabs. You have been, at least, when I was growing up, called gypsy cabs. So much so, I remember first day of school, I think I was like 10, 11 or something. My mom picked me up in a cab. I had all my all your brand new school stuff, your new school bag, your new books, the whole bit. And I left it in the car.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And, didn't have a lot of money. So mom's, upset. Like, oh my God, we're going to have to figure out how to do this thing. And I was like, oh, I got an idea. And I called information and I asked for the number of the gypsy cab company. And this is like, 15 years before this movie came out. And that was actually a way to get out of trouble because she thought that was hilarious. So I was like, nice. Yeah,
that's pretty great.
Accidentally got out of trouble by that one.
He was so cute. We're gonna forget all this stuff that happened.
Speaking of those cabs, that Dudley guy's got a good moment here. When this piece of shit, like the thing, it's rusted out. It's got like a missing window, like cardboard window or whatever. And Dudley's response is, "That car's got a dent in it."
There's another one.
There's so many small jokes like that are amazing, and there's amazing visual jokes too. Like when Danny Glover is approaching Anjelica Huston, and we get the montage of her previous suitors is some of my favorite moments of the film, even though it's so brief. Just seeing the guy Franklin Benedict with like the eye patch or whatever, there's like each image of each guy is so like, there's got to be such a ridiculous story to it, and it's just another rich, weird asshole like Royal, kind of, right?
Well, it's the frame tells you the story. That's the thing with him, is that all of them, Franklin Benedict, Oshima, all those characters are like, you see one shot of them and you're like, oh, I get it. I get everything that happened with these guys.
One of them's like an Arctic explorer or something.
I don't know.
And then there's another one later when because Danny Glover asks for Etheline's hand in marriage, and he says like, I know I'm just an accountant and I worry I don't live up to, some of your other suitors. Like Admiral Cartwright is another one.
I think it was General Cartwright, but
I think you're right.
But
yeah,
that's what I love too. And it's also great because he mentions Franklin Benedict again. I just love that guy is resurfacing a few times.
Man.
And I mean, look, Glover's fantastic. Talk about casting against type. You know what I mean? This is not a tough guy role. This is not Predator 2 Daniel Glover. It's very quiet. He's a bumbling nerd. And he's like so sweet.
It's endearing. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Exactly.
There's so many moments I love that are just so fucking awesome with him. Like again, the scene, it's right after he says fucking General Cartwright or whatever. Like she's walking with him on this archaeological dig site, which when you look at the background, it is hilarious because like we do learn from the Baldwin prologue that like Ethel went on to become an archaeologist, and she often helps out when like the city is digging a new spot for a building or something, and it's just literally an entire human skeleton like in this fucking dig site that they're
just
at,
slowly like dusting it like it's like ancient Rome or something.
Totally.
It's probably
and
just one of our dead.
It's just one of our scores of dead in this town.
Absolutely.
And it is funny though because Danny Glover's like walking after her and he falls in the fucking hole. That's really great. When he goes to read at the end and he gets his glasses out and the tie's like stuck to the glasses and she takes it off. That's such a beautiful moment too.
Well, yeah, the whole thing with him being when he's like, well, I know it's going to be rough with you, and she's like, I haven't been with a man.
Yeah,
since
18
Royal.
years.
18 years, and I think isn't that where Wigwam comes on? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just such a beautiful like little like. Talking about sex, and it's like it like still has that excitement to it. It's like an innocent excitement about sex being rekindled rather
they're like kissing kind of sweet. It's not like making out. It's like he kisses her once on the lips and then like on the cheek, and they're like just legitimately excited that this is happening.
Yeah.
It's so great.
I mean, look, I think that's sort of something I think Twee is used a lot at Anderson, thrown like darts. But I do think that like there is sexual lives in all of his movies. Like sex is very present. Like he doesn't have a lot of sex scenes, or I don't even know, maybe any. I'd have to scratch my brain.
There was that short hotel in
Chevalier.
Yeah, that at least had nudity, I believe. Did it?
Dude,
there was some nudity. Nudity in this movie briefly.
Yeah.
Yes, my first job, I had an office. Like everyone had offices because it was a really small book publishing company, and I had a buddy who was like in his mid-20s too, and we were like Wes Anderson head losers. Like, oh, the new Wes Anderson short movie came out. He's like, you want to watch it in my office? I'm like, absolutely. So we closed the door, and we're just like, it's gonna be a Wes Anderson short. They're gonna be eating tea cakes,
Did he
and
take
it's
it
like
out?
this incredibly yes, and then he took it out. This incredibly graphic sexual thing, and we're like, oh, awesome.
You know,
and
I
then
love Natalie Portman.
this is
She's
she's
good.
kind of getting she's bruised too. That's something. Boy, all right. I will see you at the meeting, sir. Talk to you soon.
Did you then never speak to that man ever
No,
again?
we were friends, but it was a very awkward moment.
I love so Royal is at the house and he's like, explaining, I want to spend some time with you. And he's like, I thought I'd start by taking you up to see your grandmother, and there's the great like Marga's like, oh, I've never been up there, I've never invited, I was never invited. And she's like, or he says, well, she wasn't your real grandmother. I never knew how much interest you have or whatever.
So hilarious.
And then it's fucking great because Luke Wilson, is like, Richie says, and Rachel's buried there too. And fucking Royal Tenenbaum goes, who?
My wife.
We'll have to swing by her grave too.
And the slam of the book. The slam of the book and Stiller storming out. Stiller is like,
he's good.
Sustained rage in this movie is really fantastic and necessary.
Which is why he's the perfect person for that, because like the little curly haired powder keg is like what that dude built his career on.
And like towards the end when he gets emotional with his father, and he breaks that facade. Pays
off.
Yeah. It pays off big time.
Incredibly powerful.
That's great.
I gotta say, when they go to the grave site, and nothing to me, I don't know why, but nothing to me is funnier than Richie when the guy says, "Bomber."
Yeah.
I remember that so well. I don't know why. That was and he points at him.
And he
like that's
curls
perfect.
his hand back. He's like, all right.
Like he's so excited to see the bomber.
And that happens again too because the first scene when he's the
green
Nico
line.
scene, it just there's this other guy's like, "Hey, bomber, we got a picture." It's just I love that he's like this. He's like McEnroe, dude. You'd stop the bomber in the street.
Definitely a McEnroe type, because of his
The
big
poster.
famous tennis meltdown.
Yeah.
Oh god.
That I think they show in this
sequence,
the trip to the cemetery, and it's just bad old TV footage of him just fucking losing it, and it's Wes Anderson and Andrew Wilson as the two like announcers or whatever. God damn, that's funny.
It's so great, them going back and forth. Like, I've never seen anything like this, Jim.
72 unforced errors. I believe he's down to one sock. It's just
What is he looking to over there? Oh, I believe that's his sister, Margot Tenenbaum, with her new husband, Riley St. Clair. Oh,
they were married just yesterday. That's right, Jim.
Yes. It's just such a great like exposition joke, joke on exposition.
Well, because you don't understand where it's going at first, because the setup is Royal being like, what happened to you out there that day, Bomber? It's also a thing where he's telling his son he lost a shit ton of money gambling on him. So it's like this whole flashback is to answer the question, and it's like, well, what happened to him was Margot got married, but it's all like that answer is at the back end of this bodega filled with other jokes,
and I mean, like, he's got I feel like Wes Anderson, like, Wells is a good comparison. There's a lot of Mel Brooksiness here too, like the zaniness of these jokes, and like it's the breaking of the fourth wall. Like he never actually breaks the fourth wall, but he gets so close to it all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like if he were to do that, like It's a fridge too far.
You don't think you should do a Deadpool movie? Or,
Ooh, that might save
Show me
the
it.
franchise.
Oh,
Yeah.
finally,
Show me
Wes
it.
Anderson is in the MCU.
No, we need people. We need some people to not be in the MCU.
That'd be fucking great.
So it's good that he isn't. But
Oh, Lars von Trier has joined the MCU.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That's a day I'm waiting for right there.
Well, you should do it because that's what would break it. That's what would break it. Would be like, you know what? We're not making any more of these.
Tom Six joins the MCU.
yeah.
Finally, eat her shit, Iron Man.
That's right. The human centipede is now going to be a villain to Iron Man and Captain America.
Yes, they wanted to make a villain movie with the Abomination. So I make a movie about abominations.
Oh, that's great, Tom.
Thank you so much, Alec. Would you like to do some mocap for me?
Oh, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Oh, thank you so much.
I got to tell you, I'm really sad because I just thought of a superhero Wes Anderson movie that I'd actually like and it would be good. And 10 people in the audience are going to get what I'm talking about. The Elongated Man for DC is a bougie.
Oh boy, dude.
Yes, you're right.
So he can make his dick long.
Yes, he's like a Mr. Fantastic type. He's a stretchy guy, but he was a bougie detective with a very affluent wife, and they would go around solving mysteries. That's a movie. That's a Wes Anderson movie.
I mean, look for. I mean, they're not looking for a new strategy because they're sinking, but DC should do something like that. That would be a smart move, I think.
I love the scene where Royal goes to the top of the Y, where for whatever reason, even he's obsessed with safety, but Chaz is cool with his two sons Ari and Uzi going with like the driver / security guard or whatever, like to this rooftop gym where they're working out.
What's interesting is there's like a chain link fence around the gym, so maybe it's like, well, they can't get out.
Didn't the UCB have one right up the street too? Right above
They
that.
did.
That sounds right too.
Because a lot of those are like like schools, like that's how they have physical education. It's like we can't go anywhere, so the gym or the track or whatever is like on the roof. So I it's totally fine that this is in this movie. It's just weird that it's a scene where these kids are on their own,
That's true.
bodyguard or no, and
Yes.
Ben Stiller's not there. But it's this great, like, he goes up to him, like, do you know who I am? No. Oh, I'm Royal. I'm your grandfather. Oh, we thought you were dead. All that stuff. It's so great. He goes, there's actually the greatest line of the whole conversation is he's like, I'm sorry for your loss. Your mother was a terribly attractive woman.
He is just so fucking funny.
Apparently, he was a huge kind of a terror on set.
Oh, really?
Not unfamiliar for Gene Hackman. Really difficult to work with. He wanted this to be. He knew he only had a couple performances left in him. He expected a fun, breezy set, and I think probably with a Wes Anderson movie, there's a lot of you got to stand here, you got to do it this way, that kind of thing, and like apparently like he would like really chew out Wes Anderson, and Bill Murray of all people, Mr. Not Difficult, had to come in and kind of call Hackman off a little bit.
Wow, that's it. Yeah. That's interesting. I'm sure everyone in Hollywood in any capacity is a fucking scum sucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
So just letting everyone know, if we're praising someone for their performance in this movie, it's because the performance, not necessarily the content of their character.
The only reason I came in with that is I think that like it's actually almost a testament to how good he is. If he's having that difficult of a time, he looks like he's having a fucking blast. You know what I mean? Like,
true. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he is.
Well, also like having a blast or no, it's also like a great performance. Like he gets to all of these places, and like, if you're you can decide to turn it on or not, and it's like, shit, man, this is the best we got out of fucking Gene Hackman, like the star of this movie.
I mean, there's literally too many instances for me to remember. I think of Burt Reynolds and P.T. Anderson all the time, but like that's another one where it's like, who cares? What you got was great. Like
exactly. Yeah.
Like I mean, like okay, you argue. Collaborators argue and belittle each other all the time, and then make up and make good stuff. Like,
Chris, when are you going to make up with me? You belittle me quite often.
Well, we're going to we're supposed to do it tomorrow, but like
yesterday,
I had this COVID issue tomorrow.
Right, because yesterday was supposed to be my thing.
Today is today.
And then, so tomorrow, Steve, you're to loop back to me though eventually.
Okay, that I just won't get one.
It will down the line. We'll just check it off. Shell after shell.
But it's I love when he moves back in and he's in the hospital bed and he's got all this stuff, and Chaz wants to throw him out. And he's like, "Come on, pack your shit, let's go." And it's just
right.
This old guy in a hospital bed, and then he falls over and he has like a fake seizure. Enter Seymour, my favorite fucking joke in this movie. Because I literally stopped, watched it twice last night, and cackled. Seymour Cassel is this fake doctor. He's playing what do you call an elevator operator?
Right,
Dusty.
Dusty,
As Dusty, the elevator operator. He's giving like a prognosis to the family. He's like, well, you have to keep taking your stomach cancer medication. No name on that.
No.
But then he's doing this whole description of the family. He's
Can we move him?
Yeah, is he a fighter? Oh, that's the best chance we got. And he gets a beep like a doctor, and he picks it up. And the joke is, it says, "Hey, Smitty worked a double yesterday. Can you cover for him?" I fucking cackled last night.
The reprise of him being the doctor at the very end, not to get ahead of ourselves, but when Richie gets an eye elbow and he's giving medical advice at the very end.
It's so great. And the way that Seymour Cassell's like flipping the responses back to them in that conversation, it's very Marx Brothers. Like it's very fast, Oh man, he's so fucking good. I also love every scene we get at Eli Cash's house, which is a couple. You also get Eli, and this is a thing, you get Eli taking Margot on a ride to do a fucking drug pickup, and she doesn't know the score, and it's like, you got to tell someone if they're on a pickup with you. This happened to me one time.
Oh, really?
Where I was getting a ride home from work with somebody, and she was like, "Hey, do you mind if we pull over to this gas station?" And I was like, it's your car. You're giving me the ride. Whatever you got to do. Okay. We're sitting in this car, and I'm like, "So you're not getting gas? What do you got to go in and get some Cheetos or something?" She's like, "No, I'm waiting for a friend." And I was like, "Okay." And then like some dude rolls up. I did not know this guy, and she's like, "All right, hang on a second." She goes and like gets in his car for like 15 minutes.
Nice.
And I'm like, "What the fuck was going on?" She gets back in the car. I was like, "What the fuck was going on?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just buying some weed." I was like, you got to tell me if I'm on a drug deal with you. You know what I mean? Like, you got to say something. This
Especially
is like
back
Margot.
then.
Yeah, exactly. And Margot's like, well, where are we going? And he's like, "Oh, I just have to pick something up." And he like, I love he buzzes the door, and it's like, "Who is it?" "Sugar, it's Eli."
Well, I mean, Andrew, you say that's bad, but imagine that happened to you, and the person next to you was telling you about how your brother was in love with you.
Yeah.
I mean, if just was saying like, "Oh, your brother," I got a call from him saying your brother was in love with you, always has been, always will be.
But it's okay because they always said adopted,
Adopted.
Just
it's
like
adopted.
Woody Allen said about Sunyi.
Just like Brazzers says.
Well, yeah, exactly. It is very Brazzers, Pornhubby, adopted stepbrother, stepsister scenario.
This was a
wow,
I mean,
we're stepbrother and stepsister. I guess we can fuck.
Well, you know what's funny is Eli Cash
Owen Wilson, porn star. Oh, wow.
is around the house just as much as she was growing up. In a way, he's also a Tenenbaum in the way that she is. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I do like the scene of Luke and Owen. Richie shows up at Eli's house, and they're hanging out or whatever. And there's the great moment where they cut to Owen Wilson standing there. Nothing is going on. And he's like, "What'd you say?" It's like, "What? Nothing. I didn't say anything." "Oh, sorry. I'm on mescaline. I've been spaced out all day." "Did you say you're on mescaline?" And then fucking dude, Owen Wilson, "I did indeed."
He says "I did indeed" while he's peeing, and the shot is blocked by a mound of videotape pornography. It's just
just showing you how this guy lives. He is whizzing with the door open, and he has a fucking mountain of pornography on
his
that TV.
art collection is awesome as hell. These shirtless guys on ATVs wearing like gorilla masks, terrorizing some guy.
Oh, and whenever he's on screen, the Clash kicks in. So I'm like, more Eli.
Yes,
get Eli back on here.
I believe.
Police and Thieves, yeah.
And then later on, when he's doing coke with, I guess, Egyptians.
Yes.
Oh,
It's Rock the Casbah for that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Tutankhamun.
Tutankhamun. Oh, Tutankhamun. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Owen Wilson pornography. You ready for my hot load? Hey, are you ready? Do you want to take this hot load?
That's where once the whole movie industry collapses, Wes Anderson should go to porn. I think Brazzers needs some movies shot in houses with really nice molding.
I got a title for one, Shanghai Poon. Well, you can't come on a thing you made.
Eric.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
The Great Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, okay.
Behind enemy lines, doggy style.
Doggy style.
You should also mention co-writer of the film.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Ooh, the French DP.
Yeah, the French DP is good.
There it is.
Bottle Rocket, you don't really need to change.
No, you're good.
Anaconda, definitely keep that the same.
Yeah, Anaconda just totally works. God, I'm really loving this Owen Wilson box set. Here.
The Donging Limited.
Yeah. Okay, Little Fockers, you could keep that one too.
Sure.
You, Me, and Dupree is a three-way, obviously.
Of course, yeah, that works. That works right there.
Getting Drilled by Drillbit Taylor, I think is one.
Oh, there you go. I Spy Some Pussy Across the Way.
Marley, and Me together.
Poonlander.
Poonlander.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
Poonlander Part 2.
Yeah, and then Poonlander 2, which nobody saw.
You'll turn the minus man into the plus man because he gets you pregnant this time.
Oh, there you go.
That was actually an okay movie if you guys haven't seen it.
That's where he's a serial killer, right? I've never seen that one.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
What's the one where he it's kind of like him doing Taken, but his wife ain't kidnapped?
What?
There's a movie, it came out, I don't know, in the last 5 years or something. It's Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Some sort of thriller.
Like No Escape?
No Escape, yes. No Escape from 2015, which overshadowed No Escape 1994, and you can't even search for that anymore. Thanks.
Yeah. Been blanketed over.
Thanks.
Wedding Fuckers.
Okay.
Yeah, he came back and they were like, let's just make him an action star. Like in that Bliss movie he did with Selma Hayek.
Starsky and Cock.
Ooh.
Oh, actually, Starsky and Cuck. How about that?
There
I like that. Yeah,
oh, yeah, you're getting cucked, man.
Exactly.
Hey, is this your wife? Oh, that's amazing. You guys have a beautiful relationship. You mind if I fuck your wife?
Oh, would you like to sit in the corner?
Hey, man, you could jerk off. No big deal.
Oh, and just low-key porn parody. I mean,
yeah, that's enough.
You know, I'm looking at the IMDb for The Minus Man. You know, maybe it isn't good. I don't know. It's been a long time.
But so yeah, he's got this huge drug problem. Yada yada yada. Now Royal is living in the house because he has stomach cancer. He can't be moved. Yet he's eating these cheeseburgers. He's still smoking cigarettes, taking cocktails.
Oh yeah. I love. There's the shot of. I really love the Tenenbaums games closet.
Yes,
they're like board game closet, and there's the shot of him and Pagoda. Like Pagoda's giving him the update or whatever, and like cheeseburger, smoking, and the two of them are cheersing with martinis in this closet. Oh man,
and it's such a great, again, like the details are just throwaway. Like it's another piece of Arrested Development. You know what I mean? Like all these board games are there for children to play, and children haven't lived in that house for 20 some odd years. You know what I mean? Like
yes, yeah. But they keep his javalina in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of the whole, the give and take of all Anderson movies, I think, since this essentially is like, who are the righteous ones? Is it the kids or the adults? Like,
yeah,
right.
Who are the ones who are like actually right here, and that everybody's wrong and right at the same time? Like it's incredible. I mean, like that's what the weave of it is. That sometimes the kids have the wisdom, sometimes the adults have the wisdom.
Just like a real family, you're all garbage.
That's what was so kind of. I mean, Moonrise Kingdom was kind of a comeback for Anderson, just because it had been a while. I think like it was Fantastic Mr. Fox in maybe 4 or 5 years, like a long break for him, and then Moonrise came in, and it was really interesting to watch him do a movie predominantly with a kid cast.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I remember loving that one. It's been a while, but
incredible movie.
Great movie.
It was a huge Moonrise was a huge box office return for him too.
For sure.
It was massive. The whole Seymour Cassel showing up as the fake Dr. McClure, by the way. That scene also has the Ben Still, like Gene Hackman has the fucking spoon in his mouth because he's pretending to be in pain, which is great. And it's the Ben Stiller line of like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?" And it's the great takes the spoon out of his mouth. "The fuck you care?" And puts the spoon back in his mouth. Oh man, the fuck you care. So great.
Meanwhile, Raleigh is just curious about what Margot is up to. At some point, he comes by. It's like, how long are you gonna be here? And she's like, "I might never come back." You know what I mean? They have this really like pained exchange, and this is when he thinks that she might be having an affair, and he goes up, and it's kind of a great scene between him and Luke Wilson, where Luke Wilson's taking care of the bird, and he just kind of like casually is like, I think that she's having an affair, and Luke Wilson just punches the glass. It's like, "What, you want to find the guy? You want to beat him up?" And he's like, "Well, I think I was gonna get a detective to see what's going on." But
the delivery from around that, like, "May I confide in you?"
Yes,
that always kills me.
But it also said, I realized this last night, it sets up like the self-harm aspect. You know what I mean? Like this guy is not okay. You know what I mean? Like this.
Yeah.
That scene does not come out of nowhere.
Right. And I think by now we also got that flashback of how she lost her finger.
Yes,
I think that was Andrew Wilson again as the farmer guy who cuts her finger off while she's stacking this log up.
Yes.
And speaking of Wes Anderson aesthetics, I love the look of this trucker hat with an Amish style beard.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I want to see a Wes Anderson hillbilly, not necessarily hellbilly movie, but something like that.
Well, because it's so great because that's when they're in the cemetery and she's talking with Ari and Uzi, and one of the kids like points out her wooden finger substitute there, and she tells the story, and she's like, "I went and found my real family in Indiana," is what she says, and I was like, okay, so I don't know how many Amish people are out there, but it is this weird like he's like, "All right, Sister Margaret, line up the wood there," Oh man, and then it's great like. One of the kids is like, "Did you try to sew it back on?" And she's just like, "I didn't really see much point in that." Like, okay.
It is a weird, just having that beard and a trucker hat and like a vest or something. It's very not Amish yet Amish. I just love that nether space he paints of Indiana.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, so like it's kind of going on, and there's more. He's now in the house. He's starting to fuck with Danny Glover a bit and getting in with Ethylene. Like they're supposed to go out, and like Danny Glover is kind of like, I don't believe in that your husband has this thing, and Ethel says no. And then the next scene is the great, and like it needs to be talked about because it's very this subtle bizarre racism that he treats Henry Sherman with is very 70s specific kind of stuff. Yes. And it's very specific that he apologizes for it at the end of the movie. It's like, I don't want you to think I'm an asshole. It's like, I just think you're a son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Like he's just trying to get this guy's head, and it's very shitty. But I mean, I do think that Henry is a great character, and I love even his son later in the movie too is another great character. Yeah. But I do love that the scene when they're about to go at it, when he's like, "Did you just call me Coltrane?"
Oh yeah. "Are you trying to steal my woman?"
Yeah.
It's just fucking
and
great.
Then you want to talk some jive and just yelling that in the house.
I'll talk some jive all day long.
I'll talk jive like you never heard.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it too is his attempt to like make Henry look bad in front of Ethel, because Ethel comes in right here and is like, "What's going on here?"
Yes.
And it's like, nothing.
A good earlier exchange with Richie and Royal, where he asked if Henry's like worth a damn, and Richie's like, "I believe so."
Yes. Yeah, totally. At this point, also, we've had the nice montage of Royal getting to know the grandparents, or the grandchildren, rather. And this is me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
So good.
And it's a lot of really awesome, like, jumping in the pool with your clothes on, okay. Water balloons, okay. Dog fighting.
Yes. The dog fighting is great. The shoplifting is great too, with the chocolate milk.
Right.
Playing go-kart in what looks like an abandoned like underpass, like something underneath a highway.
Yeah, it's definitely an off-books go-kart facility, dude.
And one of the kids come back and he has blood on his, like, oh, it's dog's blood.
Can I speak to you?
Yeah. And, again, Wes Anderson smart. We're not showing dog fighting. We're watching people watch dog fighting. So it's a little more fun and light in that way.
Yeah,
but even though Wes Anderson, as we know, famous dog hater and killer.
A lot of dog trauma in this.
He just wants to murder dogs.
Which is fine.
Well, look, he's a graduate. There's extensive cat trauma in the Grand Budapest Hotel.
That's true.
It's taken
That's
apart in that one scene. The one, like when Ben Stiller asked him to go into the closet, like this to me is like the fact that he has this tight frame with these two people and like he's just packing it with these titles and these colors and these just everything, and like you can't really. You're jumping all over the place, but then like the tension between them two is so strong, and he just leaves it there. It strikes me every time.
Well, it's also a great moment too, where like Royal, opens up on Chaz like in a way that he kind of needs, right? Because they're screaming in this closet, and he's like, "I think you're having a nervous breakdown. I don't think you've quite recovered from Rachel's death."
Yes.
Like all of these things that are totally fucking true, but in this house we don't talk about that stuff in that way. There's no clever way to funly talk about the death of his wife.
The family kind of
in the way that all these people speak to each other.
The family needs him in a way. Just they need someone blunt to like get through some of this shit.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And to take the piss out of some of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, it's the same thing. He's the great exchange with Gwyneth Paltrow, where he's like, "I don't like the way you're treating Raleigh," and she's like, "Why don't you mind your own business?" And he's like, "You're two-timing him with that bloodsucker Eli Cash." That's not right, damn it.
I do like the idea of Royal.
By the way, says the guy who had multiple infidelities.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
I do like the idea of Royal just being a shit to Eli Cash from like the get-go when he was young and being like, "That kid's no good." Richie, stay away from that child.
He does criticize Eli Cash during the childhood birthday party or whatever. He's just like, "Are you in pajamas? Do you live here?"
Oh, that's right. Yeah, what are you doing? He has permission to sleep over.
What are you, children having a sleepover?
When the scene where Royal gets busted by Danny Glover, it's kind of, there's some stuff going on, but they're watching. A couple of them, it's Richie and Margot are up in Royal's room, and they're watching Eli on the fake Charlie Rose show with Larry Pine.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where he's like, your last book, Wildcat, wasn't so well received. What happened there? And he's like, Wildcat, I think it was kind of written in like a obsolete vernacular. Wildcat. I'm gonna go. It's just like what's going on with him? He's on drugs.
And again, like this scene would make Danny Glover the villain of the movie, but he's not because of the earlier scene and the way Royal treats him. Like, you know what I mean? Like it is well balanced, and you are like you can never fully sympathize with Royal Tenenbaum because he is a son of a bitch. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at every turn, but he's a lovable son of a bitch. That's the whole turn of the movie. But like you can never be like, "Oh no, poor Royal," because like, no, fuck this guy.
And it's kind of great too, because the end of all of this, like everything goes to shit. And I know what stomach cancer looks like. My wife died of it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't eat 4 cheeseburgers a day. There's no Colby General. It closed in 1974. You'll have the great pagoda, "Oh shit, man," which is funny. But the whole end of that scene is after all that boils over, Ethel is like, "What was the point of all this?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "I thought I could win you back." And she's like, "But we haven't spoken in 7 years." And it's like Royal, you can see the screenplay like right in front of you. It's like Royal's line, ellipses, ellipses, ellipses. Plus I was broke.
Yes.
And you're like, there it is, you fucking son of a bitch. Now it finally comes out.
And the great, we've learned previously that the way that they met Pagoda was he was an assassin sent to murder Royal in a Calcutta bazaar. He stabbed him, and he took. He's like, he saved my life. And he's like, "Oh, how?" He's like, "Well, I was stabbed in a Calcutta bazaar." And he's like, "Who stabbed you?" "He did."
There was a price on my head, and he was a hired assassin.
It is such a good moment. I mean,
and then he stabs him again with this little knife, and it's so fucking funny.
God damn.
the world of it's sort of like the Venture Brothers or something, or Johnny Quest. The way it spreads out. Like I don't want to see it, but I want to see younger Royal Tenenbaum traveling the earth, getting prices on his head.
It's also just awesome too, like in this world where like everybody around like knows what Pagoda's doing here is arguably totally fine, right? Because he's like, "You son of a bitch," and then like stabs him, and like Gene Hackman kind of falls into the luggage or whatever, and Pagoda gets him, but like Gene Hackman never once, Royal is never like, "What the fuck?"
Yes.
Like the cab driver never gets out of the car. He's like, whatever is going on, that guy was clearly justified.
I also love the light snow in this scene.
Yes. And even to put it over the top, the next scene you see Pagoda actually cleaning the wound, which is great.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
it's fucking awesome.
This is where they hold up shop at the 375th Y.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's also the snowing thing just reminded me there's that great exchange where Royal's about to get in the car and he looks back up at it's like Margot and Richie and Henry Sherman standing there watching him get in the car, and he goes to Margot and says, "He's not your real father," and she goes, "Neither are you."
Oh, yeah.
And goes in the house. Oh man,
I love the fact that they use the song from Vince Guaraldi, "Christmas Time Is Here," for all these abandoned kids. Like, I mean, it's just a perfect element, and like to reference not only your like Wes Anderson's influence. Clearly, Schultz had a pretty major influence on him, but like the song works here. The song is beautiful here. It's incredible.
It really is.
It's kind of funny when he goes back to it in the ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the funny thing is like, it's not really like said that it's Christmas time at any point. There's no. Right, I'm not.
There's no holiday.
There's no decorations or anything.
No holiday scenes at all. It's probably late fall, early winter. You'd have to guess, or maybe even.
Yeah, I mean, we're all wearing coats. And
yes,
shit,
and the trees are barren, the whole thing. And again, like that reminds me of New York in the wintertime. Him and Pagoda decide to become elevator operators to survive. And typical Wes Anderson fashion. Let's put on some uniforms. Let's put on some cute uniforms, everybody.
Right.
Absolutely, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And we also around here get the private detective gets back to Bill Murray and is like, "Hey, so I did what you asked. Here, do you want to read the report?" And we get into the Ramones montage here, and it's just like all these dudes that Margot is hooked up with for her entire life. Somehow this guy found out about all of them, even like as a kid.
Yes,
and it's quite a list.
And that she started smoking. That she's 12. This great montage, and again, like very infographic-y. You're getting so much information, and then at the end, it's Bill Murray completely deadpan. She smokes. It's just like
Judy is a punk too. It's great.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Her smoking is such a great like in family, because that's what people do. You know what I mean? Everybody hides that they smoke, and like, oh my god, I don't want my parents to find out. Blah blah. Even though you're like fucking 40, you know what I mean? It's just totally. It's a really well observed detail, and we'll get to the emergency room scene, which is fantastic, but where that really pays off.
Yeah, and we're almost to it. I mean, this whole report about like blah blah blah, all these dudes, including Eli Cash.
Yes.
This is what sets Richie off to the suicide attempt. This was also, by the way, a lot of firsts for Andrew Jupin. This was the first time I ever heard Elliott Smith was in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And this eerily prescient usage of Elliott Smith.
Oh yeah,
sure.
He was definitely still alive. I don't think
still alive.
He would not have. You wouldn't use a suicide scene if.
No.
You're saying this gave him ideas, though. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm getting at.
Well, I did follow these ideas. It was very different from this idea.
Yeah,
it's
eerie, man. The funny thing is, like, I don't want him to ever, but if Wes Anderson made a horror movie, this scene tells me that it would be pretty okay.
Oh yeah. No, this is amazing. Like the lighting in this bathroom is like this weird, stark, like medical lighting, and just the visuals here. And even though you don't see him physically slit his wrist, just the blood pouring out and the hair everywhere. He could do it, man. He could do it.
And it's just as great. I mean, it's very affecting. Again, like these movies aren't as cold as people think they are. he looks in the mirror. He's like, I'm gonna kill myself tomorrow, but then he just kind of does it. You know what I mean?
That's always kind of been weird to me, and I guess it's like, with those situations, you never know how you're gonna act, and maybe he just decides fuck it. It's always played odd for me, but not in a bad way. It's just truly unsettling.
I always took it as, he is a man who's always had like steadiness, and he can plan things out, and he can center himself when he needs to, and he's like trying to tell himself, put it off for tomorrow. Put it off for tomorrow. You'll do it tomorrow. Right. But he can't. Like, this is him breaking down for good. He can't control anything anymore. This is why the blood rushes the way it does in that visual way, and the way that you get the scars, and it was really fucking violent. Like, it wasn't like a tidy. It was not a Wes Anderson suicide. It was a jagged, like, insane suicide. He like cut himself 3 times on each one in downward too, rather than across.
And I mean, like, this is. Wes Anderson is a music guy, and it's not just like, hey, what are cool Kinks songs to put here or there or the other way, because I like Kinks music. Like, he chose this song because it's got that real heavy acoustic moment to really, when we're rushing Richie to the hospital, that's gonna make this crescendo into this amazing moment. You know what I mean? Where we're rushing, and like Dudley finds him, and it's really affecting that Dudley finds him.
Right, he yells.
He's like, this kid,
you don't hear it.
He doesn't have language to deal with this kind of stuff. This poor kid doesn't know anything, and he's seeing this guy like half dead. You feel really bad for him.
I love them running in the hospital. Both of them are covered in blood. And then when Gwyneth Paltrow gets there and she asks Dudley, where is he? And he goes, who?
That's right. Oh my God, that's so fucking great. I wanted to point out, because we're talking about a lot of the look of this movie. It's shot by Robert D. Yeoman, who has worked with Wes Anderson, I think, almost exclusively here. I don't have the entire filmography, but this dude, also directed some previous episodes, Dead Heat and The Wizard. Wow. He shot both of those movies. But he's so he shot. See if I can do the years here, because he did Bottle Rocket, Rushmore. He goes into Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic. Branches off to work with Noah Baumbach for Squid and the Whale. Did shoot Darjeeling. Did shoot Hotel Chevalier.
I don't think he did the stop motion movies, which I think is probably a different process.
Yeah, because he comes back. You're right, because he shoots Moonrise Kingdom. He's working also like in tons of other places, because he did Get Him to the Greek. He did Bridesmaids. He did The Heat. But then he goes back. He does Grand Budapest. He does Spy, Love and Mercy, the fucking Ghostbusters 2016, the second Mamma Mia movie, and then boom, French Dispatch. Right. And he shot Asteroid City. So he's done all of his live action movies.
A good DP, but that list reminds me of like the production design of Wes Anderson, the art directors. They add that extra element that puts it over the top.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's why, like, if you're a dude like Wes Anderson, like, it's beneficial to work with the same DP as much as you can,
Definitely.
So the suicide, the coming together in the hospital is great.
Yes.
I love them all together, and just like fucking Dudley just sitting there blood covered on the t-shirt.
This is Raleigh saying, Claire, may I have a cigarette? Which is like he used it like it's like the third act of a fucking like Agatha Christie thing. Like he is like doing gotcha on her. In a really shitty moment, by the way, but
yeah.
And he lays the suicide right at her feet. He's like, you made a cuckold of me, and you almost killed your poor brother.
You nearly killed your own brother.
Oh yeah,
like that delivery is so
bawling.
Yeah.
By the way,
she's bawling Eli Cash.
Bawling is great. When Richie wakes up, he said, people like when they ask him like why or whatever, and he's like, I wrote a suicide note after I regained consciousness.
Is it dark? Of course it's dark. It's a suicide note.
Could you read it?
Oh
No.
God,
it's just those lines. There's just so many lines that hit so well in this movie.
Yes,
that are
hilarious. Gene Hackman takes off work to see him, and he just happened to see him as he escapes the hospital. The first of 2 great pagoda deliveries of "There he is," which is
yes. Oh man, there he is. There he goes. Yeah,
he sneaks back in, and he sleeps in this. He sleeps in this crazy tent up in the attic because his room is occupied by Royal. And this is when, Gwyneth Paltrow is in his tent, and this is one of the most affecting scenes I think that he's ever done.
Oh yeah. Because it's like, it ends. He somehow manages to make it end in such a way where, like, not that it's not creepy, but like the creepiness is diffused with her just being like, Richie, I think we're gonna have to be with in love with each other in secret and leave it at that.
Yes, but I mean,
and it's just kind of like, all right.
Well, there's this just like when they lay back down, and she's like, can I see? Are you going to do it again? And he's like, I don't think so. And then she breaks down. It's a tough one to watch, man. It's like a really and they have such good chemistry, and like again, it's like stilted, quiet Wes Anderson enough, but there's so much emotion behind that scene.
Oh yeah. And I love that it's also hearkening back to, one of the things that Baldwin tells us in the narration, that one time when they were kids, they snuck off to there was some sort of African wing of the city archives or something.
Yes.
That they, and it's so funny because it's like, those kinds of stories, for New York, it's like, oh, they snuck into the Natural History Museum and they slept under the big whale. But it's like, no, they just went to these archives and like lived under a bench for several days. But like them in the tent sort of, harkens back to all of that, which is really nice. And all this is like, it's really warmly lit because all the lights coming from like his little tent lantern or whatever. Which is pretty cool.
And there's so much yellow in the scene,
Yes. And I don't think so. Him saying that is interesting because it is devastating because she's terrified that he is going to do it again. But it's also one of the stock things that this family says to each other a lot. Like if you look at the script, a lot of the time, the Tenenbaum family, they say things like, what are you talking about? A lot.
Yes.
Not exactly a lot. By the way, a lot. Not real. You know what I mean? It's weird that it's like one of the family things just being said again, but this time it carries so much more weight than any other time they say it in the movie, which I think is really cool. But so yeah, they are not. They're not going to be living happily ever after, which is probably fun.
Although she asked about Eli, we mostly just talked about you.
Yeah, but you don't even know. I mean, like where it actually ends. Yeah. You don't know where they're at.
They might be fucking.
Yeah, I think they might be fucking.
They might be fucking on Christmas.
Dude,
they're probably fucking on Christmas. And, I mean, because she's like hanging all over him at the funeral, and like I imagine after this, I mean, no matter what good has come of Royal's time here, I do think that afterwards they're like, yeah, we'll see you like holidays, right? We don't have to like talk. We don't have to talk all the time. So me and Margot are gonna go back onto the boat and fuck all the time in international waters.
That's where it's legal, baby.
And then they're very smart though, right? Because it's like, Ethel's invited us all for Thanksgiving. All right, you get there on Tuesday, and then I'll tell them that I'm coming in from the West Coast on the Wednesday night. You see. So they don't know that we've been on this boat fucking the whole time.
Yes. We don't want that. They probably know, but we don't want that image in their head. That's not good for anybody.
Well, it's also kind of funny because like Royal isn't like entirely against it, because he's just like, Margot Tenenbaum? Well, I guess I could see it. She's a pretty enough girl. Like whatever he says, it's not like it's not outright disgusting.
I don't even know.
It would be frowned upon.
Yes, it would be frowned upon. But then again, what isn't these days?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. It's around here too is when they try to go. It's like Richie's like, oh, Dad, I have another problem that I need your help with, and it's doing this like really rough out of nowhere intervention for Eli, where they go to the house.
Mordecai the bird did come back on that rooftop though.
Mordecai, by the way, he's like, oh wow, he has white feathers. If a human being has a traumatic experience, blah blah blah. No, actually, the bird that played Mordecai was kidnapped and held for ransom, and they couldn't get it back, so they wound up like just getting a different bird and writing that line in, which is fucking insane.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Bird napping.
Bird napping.
That is a literal Wes Anderson crime happening on a Wes Anderson movie.
Yes, bird napping in the Big Apple. Where's that short?
Dude, and I'll tell you right now, that'll teach you to film your movie in the Bronx.
It's true.
But they do have the nice exchange here where Eli's like, I always wanted to be a Tenenbaum, and then Royal across the room, me too, like, God damn.
And he does say this,
those little moments.
And again, like, it's so sweet. It's like this whole part of the movie is like really all these emotional high notes, and then it's just sort of like, well, like, thank you. I realize I now have a problem. I'm gonna go grab my stuff, and then
there he goes.
There he goes.
And did you notice? I was watching this. He runs out. He calls a gypsy cab down. He hails the cab. He's barefoot in the street, and if you look at it, Owen Wilson is definitely wearing those fake Hobbit feet that Daniel Stern had in Home Alone.
Really?
He's just wearing big rubber feet.
Yeah, I guess because do you want to run around barefoot in New York City and probably the Bronx?
I don't. No.
So there you
I
go.
would.
It's just funny now with Blu-ray and 4K and whatnot. I'm just seeing Hobbit feet left and right. He does have the quick scene at the ice cream parlor too, because he's now going through and trying to make good with all the kids, trying to weasel his way back in for a second time in the movie. I guess I'll have a butterscotch sundae, I guess, after not wanting anything.
You probably don't even know my middle name. That's a trick question. You don't have to. It's Helen. That's my mother's name. I know.
It's so funny because it is hilarious, but it's also incredibly sweet.
Yes, but it's
him being like, "Oh, that's my mother's name."
I know, but also it's not a what do you call it there? They are not okay at the end of this scene. You know what I mean? It's not. This isn't he doesn't solve everything. He definitely has a horrible relationship with her forever.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Things are still going bad for him. I mean, he goes to the house and yells for the grandkids, "Who's up for a couple burgers?" and hitting the cemetery.
Hitting the cemetery.
And I think Chad shuts that down.
Yeah, but then it's the big wedding day of Ethel and
Royal. Because he does. That's the last make good. He gives the divorce.
He gives the
paper.
divorce.
That's right.
Which is actually a beautiful scene.
Yes, it is.
I wasn't sure about him at first, but now I get it. He's everything that I'm not.
Oh, and
So
take
good.
Pagoda back, will you?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Poor Pagoda.
Totally. By the way, in true Wes Anderson fashion for this wedding, you get the weirdest looking fucking wedding quintet you have ever seen in your life.
Of course.
You see these people? You got some Forged in Fire contestants on there, man.
Is Mother's Ball in that fucking quintet?
Oh,
Secretly?
it might be because
That
he did some music in this movie.
Well, he's always this dude,
Oh, is he?
Yeah, or he does a lot of them, right?
Yeah, no, he does do a lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't know when he started or not, but yeah, he does do a lot.
Because hasn't he also worked with? Is it Alexandra Desplat?
Maybe recently.
Oh,
okay.
so
okay.
He switched over, I think.
Gotcha.
Got it. Yeah, the whole wedding sequence. I mean, it all just works so well. It's the house is all decorated, and it just again starts with this fucking Royal Tenenbaum. He will talk to a brick wall, and he's talking to this priest, and it's the great. Well, I'm half Hebrew, but the children are 3/4 Mick Catholic, and the priest is like, "Oh, so they were raised in the church? Oh, I don't know. Their mother raised them."
We meet Henry Sherman's son, who's. I just love that this it's just fun to watch, and I think Wes Anderson knows this. Bringing in characters that are as baffled by the hijinks as anybody else. You know what I mean? A real person almost. He's this naval officer. You know what I mean? He's got this whole He's got this whole other life, and it's just this thing where it's oh, okay, hi, weird fucking family.
It doesn't happen often,
Yes.
but when someone from not a Wes Anderson movie arrives in a Wes Anderson movie.
Yes.
There's
you're expecting this kid came out of fucking, Nicolas Cage in Annapolis or whatever.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm on Mark Mothersbaug's IMDb, and he started with Bottle Rocket, believe it or not.
Oh.
He also did the music for Happy Gilmore the same year.
Ooh,
Nice,
It's
dude.
pretty
nice
awesome.
career there.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what you want.
I love that scene with Danny Glover getting ready with his son. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, we were just talking about the Butterscotch Sundae scene where, there are things that this person who you think loves you should know about you, you think. And, you assume they do know these things about you because there's some warmth to it that you think you share. And they forget that because they forget old parts of themselves, forget who they were. Whereas, but the other side of that is that there are strangers who know all about you and love you like just by knowing what you've been through. So something when Henry says like, I'm a widower myself, like that, it's such a huge moment because it feels like Ben Stiller has never had anybody say, I know what you're going through.
Yes.
Like, I know what this is.
It's
like,
a
I
great
know
moment.
what that is.
He puts his arm around him. He's like, I know. He's like, I am too. He's like, I know. And he like put, it's a really sweet moment.
Really
well,
is.
it's also a nice callback to the scene where they're all fighting about Royal coming back to the house to begin with, and Ben Stiller keeps calling him Mr. Sherman, and Ethel's like, call him Henry, you know him, and he's like, I don't. He's like, she says, you've known him for 10
As
years.
your
is what it is.
accountant.
It's
Yeah.
Mr. Sherman,
Yeah.
right? And it's this really nice thing of like, hey man, like, yeah, he's just been Mr. Sherman to you, but this dude has been with your mother and learning about your life, and he remembers it because he cares, because he's a fucking good person. And look at how fucked up the three of you are. Like, you are fucking paranoid, having a nervous breakdown. Your brother wants to fuck your sister, and meanwhile, here's fucking Henry Sherman's kid. This motherfucker is in the service, like he's in the Navy, like proud father coming, putting his son on display. Like, boy, there could not be polar opposites.
And being like polite to everybody too.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And then meanwhile, you like Cash. This fucking face paint is just
damn, dude, it is wild. And it's just Owen Wilson speeding down the road like, here I come. It's fucking great.
And he almost hits the kids, but Royal pulls them aside, and because fucking Wes Anderson, like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy before him, wants to fucking fuck with dogs, has to kill Buckley.
I only got to kill 10 dogs on this shoot. We killed a lot of dogs on the Isle of Dogs shoot because we had to know what they look like outside and inside. So I just decided to go wild. But yeah, on Royal Tenenbaums, we kept it pretty low. Only 10 dead dogs to get Buckley right.
Peter can go fuck themselves. The shot needed to look good.
Look, did Boonwell care? No, he didn't. All right? Kick that goat right off the fucking edge.
Buckley isn't even fucking in the shot.
No, I
man.
know.
It's the magic of editing. Also, is there some track record here that I'm not aware of, Steve? Aside from Isle of Dogs, by the way, Steve, which was all puppets. I don't know if you knew that. There's no real dogs.
He kills a dog in Moonrise Kingdom. That dog.
Oh,
eats shit.
I don't remember that one.
Is it a dog or is it a cat that she has? I think it's a dog.
Ooh.
And
pets in general, he just is not fond of.
It's the rumble between the two sets of kids. I think a dog definitely eats shit there. I think it's like shot with a bow and arrow or something.
I need to revisit.
that sounds right.
I need to revisit that movie. I remember loving it, and maybe it was because I want to see dogs die. Apparently,
but anyway, so yeah, they crash
in one scene, Snoopy is killed by an arrow. That's right.
Oh,
see,
it's a bummer.
Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you, the dude fucking hates dogs.
was Woodstock crying that night?
Woodstock's crying his eyes out.
Oh, someone call home to Woodstock. Snoopy ain't coming home tonight.
Linus is playing his piano.
So that's Red Baron 1, Snoopy 0.
Also, I'll just say, the dog who played Buckley, Steve, I mean, no fucking urban legends about that dog getting kidnapped on set with that bird, though.
That's a good point.
I also love that the dog is named Buckley. It is kind of a nice, Chaz Tenenbaum would name his dog after William F. Buckley, maybe. You know what I mean? Could be any other amount of names, but I was like, Buckley. This character, it's a William F. Buckley dog.
I guess it's fitting it's dead then, right? It's a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of Stiller, though, I love him fucking just chasing Owen Wilson through this house. This whole thing, again, the real frenetic camera work back again.
This is one of the best sequences of the movie, not only because at one point Pagoda stops, Owen Wilson says, hey, man, taste this. It's really good.
Oh, totally. He's got an appetizer plate.
But then also... I think it's Chaz that shoves the priest down the flight of stairs, and the stunt performance of this is so funny.
Dude hits every stair. It's really good.
And just like the Stiller screaming, they do a good cut where it's like they're fighting against the wall in the backyard. They cut to other people running in, and then when they cut back, Ben Stiller is just lifting Owen Wilson over his head and throwing him over the wall.
Yes.
God damn, that's great.
Then,
just like freak out strength. I love it.
Like realizing like he's also being a piece of shit. Like he's got to get out of there himself, so he just jumps over and lays next to him.
this is a great moment, right?
Yeah.
They land in this like little like Zen rock garden, and Owen Wilson's like, I need help. And it's Ben Stiller saying, so do I. And it's just like, fuck, that's great. And then, I love they knock on the door. It's some like consulate or something.
It's like the Japanese ambassador's residence.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, ma'am, can we get in your backyard? We got 2 of our boys back there. Like they're little kids, but no, they're pushing 40.
Him with spark plug up on the fire truck. I love that thing that he, for all his, like, there is something about dogs in this movie because, like, the fact that he has such a command of dogs, like he tells every dog, like, sit, and the dog sits. Buckley and Sparkplug do that. And then he gets the dog for Chaz, and it's really sweet.
That is like another movement in this incredible like single take going around the scene here that starts with Bill Murray talking to this priest, and he's like, do you have an alternate? The guy's like, no.
Is there a dial-a-priest?
And we just start like, moving through this whole space. It's just really, really incredible. And it kind of gets in. You have the moment here of, when Royal gives the dog, and this is the great Ben Stiller. I had a rough year, Dad. I know you did, Jazzy.
Yeah.
And it just sort of like, we have this nice little crane up, and it's amazing. Like the whole composition of this is like Royal down on the street, like, got my kid a new dog. I made good.
Yeah.
Everything's doing okay. And then it's like Ethel up on the steps, her arms folded, like looking down at the scene. It's almost like one of the Tenenbaum illustrations you see, throughout the film. It's just so expertly composed. I fucking love it.
Gorgeous.
And this is when Baldwin kicks back in, and he starts to kind of wrap everything up, letting you know that, that Henry and Etheline were married the next week. 48 hours later, at Justice of the Peace, that everybody was there. And that Chaz started to go with Royal on his little adventures.
Margot writes the Levinsons in the trees, which we're told ran for just under 2 weeks to mixed reviews. And it's fucking great because it's just the same line from her Animals play where it's like, this is my adopted daughter, Margot Levinson. And it's fucking Royal, the only person laughing in the theater.
Yes.
I have to assume that's where they got, she must have written the first draft of the Wild Thornberries cartoon, probably just for that.
Richie becomes like a tennis teacher at the Y.
Eli goes to a North Dakota rehab.
Yes.
Where he's, doing lassos amongst Native Americans, saying shit like, wind's blowing up a gale today.
Yeah, this is my sponsor, runs with 2 horses. Yeah. Hey, how's it going? And then we are told Royal suffered a heart attack at the age of 68, and Chaz rode with him in the ambulance and was the only witness to his father's death. And that whole, the whole thing, they have Hackman in the ambulance. He's got the oxygen mask on his face. Ben Stiller's holding his hand. Like, goddamn, the end of this movie gets me every fucking time, dude.
And just like a son of a bitch going to the grave, you got to soundtrack it with the son of a bitch. So Van Morrison.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Kicks in.
And according to his wishes, the funeral was at dusk.
Totally.
In accordance with his wishes, Van Morrison was blaring.
And people wore black track suits.
Had he seen it, Royal would have found the whole affair to be most satisfactory.
The BB gun salute, I thought sweet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And then it's a nice callback, which was a callback I didn't notice until this time, because when they're at the cemetery, there's a shot of it's him and Richie standing next to some other gravestone of someone that's not theirs. And he's like, make a note. I want that kind of epitaph on my tombstone. And then like what we get at the end is just a shot of the tombstone that says that Royal died tragically rescuing his family from the wreckage of a destroyed sinking battleship.
It's so good. And then I think there's even something else, like when we have a lot, like a wider shot of the grave area, there's also something that says the salt of the earth for him.
That was his, wasn't that his mother?
That was the mother.
The mother got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's her little thing, is like she was the salt of the earth, Helen.
Right.
Tenenbaum,
Okay, yeah, because that's the closing of the gate of the family plot. My mistake.
Yeah. Which is, I was looking at that and I was like, man, if I wanted to be buried in the ground, a nice little fenced-in area with a gate, pretty
not
cool.
bad, dude.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rich are putting
Start
gates,
saving, dude.
The rich are putting gates everywhere, dude.
Nah, dude, put me in a fucking Folgers can like Donnie, dude.
That's
all
the
right
way
with
to
me.
be.
Put me out to sea. Totally fine. Yeah, but just ending, and yeah, sure, Van Morrison's a dick, but the song's fucking great, and the slow-mo ending here, I think, is only topped by is it Queen Bitch that ends the next movie?
It might
That's
be.
Life Aquatic ends with
Yeah.
with Queen Bitch.
Which
yes.
I and that slow-mo ending I remember liking more, even though I like this movie much more than Life Aquatic, but that's just because I think Queen Bitch is obviously the better tune. But yeah, just ending like that, it really knocked me on my ass. I should say this movie is the movie I've seen in theaters the most. I saw this movie 5 times when it came out, and I may have told the story before. Not much of a story, but I took my parents on the 5th time because they were like, "What is this? You keep going to see this movie," and I was like, "Let's go." Boy, they didn't care for it. They did not care for. They did not care for a fucking lick of that movie. And I'll tell you right now, that was in 2001. So we're talking 21 years ago.
Yeah.
Literally the last time I've been to the movies with my parents.
It'd be funny. Your dad's just like all of a sudden he's like, "Oh man, Andrew, I don't usually like him, but I saw that Isle of Dogs, and they just got everything straight A. They figured it all out. He's good now. He's good. He should stick to animation."
Yeah, my dad not watching stop animation, and he wouldn't have cared much for the treatment of the dogs in that movie.
Oh,
so.
really? Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, no, my dad's a big dog fella. Oh man, but that is the movie. That is the Royal Tenenbaums, folks. You may have seen it and you may have liked it, and if you haven't, I don't know, check it out. Maybe we should go around the room here. Of course, final thoughts and other additional Wes Anderson recommendations. I don't know, whatever you want to do. Eric Siska.
Yeah, no, I love this movie. I do think it's like his crowning achievement, even though I love a lot of his movies. I talked about that earlier, but I want to quickly highlight David Wasco. I mean, this is the last movie he made with Wes Anderson. He's the production designer. Interesting career with this fellow. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Bottle Rocket, Jackie Brown. This is selected filmography. There's a few more in between. Rushmore. He does Heist with David Mamet. He'll also do Red Belt with David Mamet. Royal Tenenbaums, both Kill Bills, Collateral, Inglourious Bastards, and he wins the Oscar for La La Land.
Well, there you go.
Also did Molly's Game and 50 Shades of Grey, so he's skewing in another direction now, but he's a good craftsman, I'll say that much.
There you go, dude. Chris Cabin.
Oh yeah, I mean this. I love Wes Anderson. He's one of my favorite directors. I think he's been. I think Rushmore on, like, aside from Isle of Dogs, I love them all. Like I love them all. And I think the thing I love about him is that there's craftsmanship to them all. Like still even like now that he's using a little more computers with aside from the stop motion animation stuff like Grand Budapest and French Dispatch. Like in a time when like everybody seems to be trying to make everything look synthetic and like look empty, like his shit is full of stuff. And like French Dispatch, like some of those frames are so alive and packed with life that I that's why I think people were overwhelmed by it. Is because like there's actually too much to know. Like to go into his movies, you actually are overwhelmed with how much he's putting into them. I mean, and that is just rare. Like there's just no other director, maybe other than the other Anderson, PT, and maybe Kiarostami, that I think of who pack the fucking screen with this much detail. And it always sends me into a reverie. I get romantic about movies when I watch his movies, and this is no different.
I mean, and it's wild too, just to think like, I mean, something like French Dispatch. I mean, why it's like advanced level Wes Anderson, a bad place for you to start with his filmography is like you're saying. I mean, there's so much, but like it's what there's so much of that's wild to me. I mean, like there's 3 different aspect ratios. There's color and black and white. There's live action and animation. You know what I mean? So like, and it's a fucking anthology film on top. You know what I mean? So there's so jam packed shit in that movie, and I still think I really like all parts of that movie. I know some people are iffy on the Chalamet part. I thought it was still good, but yeah, like the fact that you look at this movie and it's like so, it's not, but it just feels way more streamlined and simplistic.
Yes.
By the way, amendment real quick. I should mention that Sandy Reynolds Wasco is also the set decorator on most of his movies, so it's kind of a husband-wife duo that I was speaking of.
Nice.
For real. Yeah.
Very nice.
Steve Sadak.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this actually is a great place to start for Wes Anderson stuff. It is just such a prototypical one. It's probably my favorite. It's probably the most emotionally resonant for me, and just the New Yorkiness of it all. I don't think he does a lot more in New York. You know what I mean? I think Darjeeling comes back to New York once or twice, but mostly not so much. And I just think that all of that stuff, plus, I don't know, like there's just, he talking about this stuff and being able to fit this much story in an hour and 49 minutes by not unlike a novelist, knowing when to let narration take care of a lot of heavy lifting and then have a scene. You know what I mean? And like playing between those two things and not worrying too much about, ooh, is this too much narration or is this too much that? And like there's just, so much about this world. By the time that gate closes, you feel like you've read a whole book, and that's the greatest part of this. The trick of this movie, it moves like a book, it feels like a book, but it is undoubtedly a movie. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's well paced, but like dense in text, but in a good way.
I mean, I don't think I'm gonna say anything different or better than what you guys have already said here. I mean, yeah, I am a big fan of most of his movies, if not all of them. I will say I haven't gone back to a lot of his later stuff, which I would like to. But this is, I agree, a good place to start, and we'll see what happens with Asteroid City next year. But there's a lot of people there who he has not worked with yet. I mean, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, I mean, Tom Hanks, Maya Hawke, Margot Robbie, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Carell, Cranston is in that movie. And then, and Rupert Friend. But then, and then some of your faves are back too. Defoe, Brody, Norton, Swinton, Goldblum back. Oh, fucking Fisher Stevens floating around. Yeah. I'm even more excited. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, he's a dude. You either like him or you don't. I do feel that he gets a little bit of like a cynical kind of, he's cynically shit on in corners of the film world, which I never get. It's like, and maybe that's just because like we came up when he was getting big, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
He didn't make Pokemon the movie or whatever. Detective Pokechew or whatever,
I'll tell you what, dude. Fucking Wes Anderson making a Pokemon movie. Maybe I'd finally see
it'd be good. It'd be good.
That would be a good one. I'd like that. Shin Pokemon would be good by Wes Anderson.
Shin Pokemon. There you go. Wes Anderson's Shin Pokemon. That is going to do it for this edition of We Love Movies. Of course, this has been the Royal Tenenbaums by Wes Anderson from 2001. If you want more We Hate Movies, definitely check out our Patreon this month because the script is flipped, folks. We have We Love Movies episodes all month here on the main feed, which means over on the $5 level WLM feed, it's actually H this month. We are doing Rotten Rid's Hannibal. That's going to be wild ass time. At the time of this recording, I've not seen this movie in like 20 years. This is going to be really something.
It's going to be an interesting re-evaluation, and Ray Liotta's brains are on display.
And you'll get a lot of Mason Verger impressions, I'm going to guess. Oh, if I had to guess.
Oh, no. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. Also, we have a full-length AD. Is that right, Steve?
We do, featuring my wife, who's also a huge Wes Anderson fan. Talking about one of her favorite movies, Nightmare Before Christmas. In time to be exactly between Christmas and Halloween, which is where you want it, folks.
And that's where you want to position that
good
movie,
episode, man. A lot of fun. Feature-length episode, by the way.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Speaking of feature-length episodes, Chris Cavan, what's going on over on the Nexus?
Oh, we're talking about Star Trek: The Motion Picture with the gold titles. Now they have the gold titles. The gold titles are there.
Yes, we are big fans of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and it was a lot of fun to talk about. Also, yes, big fat feature-length ep, folks.
Oh yeah, recorded back in August, so who knows what we were saying back then. And also, speaking of longer than usual, we have a big fellow to talk about on the Gleep Glossary this month.
That's right. Chewbacca will be joining us.
Oh wow, in studio. That's right. Chewbacca.
That's right. That's right. He will be there. Do not worry about it. Maybe with the magic of the movies, he will be there, but he will be there.
Oh, definitely, Chewbacca. You can totally smoke in the studio. That's fine.
That'll just cover up the fucking smell, right?
But here on the main feed, We Love Movies Month continues with another ep next week. Steve, what are we talking about and with whom?
We are doing a episode on Point Break with Matt Christman and Will Menaker of the Chapo Trap House podcast. We're excited to welcome them to this show. We're excited to talk about Gary Busey. Utah, two.
Utah, give me 2 guests on that next episode.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So until next week, where we're talking about one of the best surfer crime dramas of all time, I'm Andrew Jupin.
Steven Sadak.
Eric Siska.
Chris Cabin.
Take it easy.
That was a HeadGum podcast.